The learning Zeila Nishmas Etta Ahuva Bas Yaakov Maseches Bava Metzia Perek Hey Mishna Aleph. Ezehu Neshech veEzehu Tarbis. The Torah uses the word Neshech and Tarbis, and the Mishnah wants to know what the chilik is. So before we say the Mishnah's teretz, let's just say the Gemara comes out that Etta Metzia Lo Neshech B'Lo Tarbis, Lo Tarbis B'Lo Neshech. Really, whenever you have Neshech, which means that you're taking away from the other person, you also have Tarbis, which means that you're getting more. And you can't have one without the other. The Gemara says, the only reason why the Torah says a lav of neshech and a lav of tarbis is to be over 2 lavin every time you lend ribbis. So the Mishnah, when it says what neshech is going to just be explaining ribbis daraisa, and when it says ezeu tarbis, it's going to be explaining ribbis darabana. So what's the case of Ezo Neshech? What's the case of Ribbis Daraisa? Hamal v'sela, if I lend you a sela which is 4 dinar, b'chamisha dinar, and you have to pay me back 5 dinar, so that's Ribbis Daraisa. Or, Sasayim chitim, I lend you 2 sa of chitin, which is a volume, and you're paying me back shalish sin of chitin, so you're paying me back more, that's Ribbis Daraisa, b'mneishu u'noishech. V'zeu tarbis, what's the case of Ribbis Darabana and Hamarbe b'peiras? What's the case? If I buy a dinar zav's worth of chitin, which is a kor's chitin hakor for a dinar zav, which is 25 dinar kesef, v'chein hashar, and that's the going rate. And the halacha would be, if I would do such a thing, even though you don't have chitim at the time, but if I give you upfront money for chitim for the whole year, even though the price will fluctuate and will go up later on, that's not a problem. That the Mishnah says later on, we're going to learn on later in the pasuk, that once the going rate went out, once it was yatsa hashar, then paiskin afal pish ein lezeh yesh lezeh. Then we say, even though the meicher at the time doesn't have the wheat, since that's the price already went out, and that was the price at this time, so even if the price of wheat goes up later on, he could pay me back that wheat later on. The problem with this case is, it continues, and it says, Amdu achitim b'shleishin dinarim, the wheat went up in 30 dinarim, and Amar loy ten lichiti, he wants his wheat back, which is now worth more. Shani roitzel l'moichem v'lika ben yain, I want to sell that wheat and buy wine. Amar loy, so the moicher says, Harei chitecha sus alai b'shleishin dinarim, I don't have wheat to give you right now. Instead, let's make it a loan that I owe you 30 dinar. V'harei l'cha etzli behen yain, and I'll give it to you as wine eventually. V'yayin ein layin, wine I don't have. So now, since over here he's not actually getting money for the chitin, in the beginning of the case he was getting money for chitin and it was yatsa shar, that's no problem. Then we say afal pish ein lezeh yesh lezeh, even though you don't have wheat but someone else has wheat. But in this case, the end of the case where he's making it into wine and he's not receiving any money, he's just doing it as a loan, and yayin ein layin, he doesn't have the wine, so even though it's yatsa hashar, that's going to be ribbis derabbanan. Mishnah Beis, hamalve es chavera, if someone lends his friend money, lo yoder b'chatzei rechinam, the malve is not allowed to live in the chatzer of the loiva for free, and similarly, lo yisker mimenu b'pachos mimnei shehu ribbis. He also can't give him a better deal on his rent, because it turns out that because you lent me the money, that's why I'm doing you a favor. Now Taisus asks, so it comes out that every time a malva lends a loiva money, the loiva shouldn't be allowed to do any favor to the malva because it's ribbis. Taisus says that it's dafka by something that's mili de befarhesia, va'av shetuva, something that's well known, that it's obvious, like the rental case over here, that he's renting it to him for a discount or for free, that would be ribbis. Or a second teretz is that the Torah asks this ribbis, when the loiva is doing something for the malva that he would not have done, he's only doing it because of the loan. So like this case of the rental, he's only letting him live in his house for free because he lent him the money, that's ribbis. The last halach in the Mishnah is marben ala schar ve'imar ben ala mecher. Ketzad. So we'll explain the case. If I rent you a house and I tell you that if you pay me up front right now for the whole year, all you're going to have to pay me is 10. But if you pay me monthly, then you're going to have to pay me 12, a sela each month. That is mutter. But But if I'm selling you a field and I tell you if you pay me up front, you're going to have to pay me 1,000, but if you pay me in 6 months from now, you're going to have to pay me 1,200 more, that's also because that's ribis. Because the only reason why I'm charging more is because of the agar noter, because you're holding on to the money and you're only paying me later on. So you're paying me for the loan, that's ribis. But by the case of the rental, the Gemara explains that skiris eina mishtalemes elul b'sayif, so it comes out that he really only owes the money monthly. So every month when he pays it, that is the rate, that is how much it's worth. The fact that I'm telling you that if you pay me now, it's going to be less, that's a discount and that's mutter.